Hello, I'm Denise Galoni. Welcome to today's episode of Empowering You. My guest today is Corey Walmsley. Corey's the CEO of Aurora Borealis Publishing. She works with business owners who have a transformational story to share. She helps them quickly and easily write and publish a book for their brand that helps them create a legacy and can be seen as an expert while building a relationship with the reader. Corey will share some great information on how to get started if you have an idea for writing a book and publishing. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. My guest today is Corey Walmsley, CEO of Aurora Borealis Publishing. She works with business owners who have a transformational story to share. She helps them quickly and easily write and publish a book for their brand that helps them create a legacy and be seen as an expert while building a relationship with the reader. Corey has 18 years experience as a professional writer and editor, including 10 years with the Department of Energy and Justice, and 4 years as the executive editor of Inspiring Lives magazine. She also wrote 8 fiction books and 1 nonfiction book, The Spark Method: How to Write a Book for Your Business Fast, and contributed to 2 anthologies. Her newest book, Braving the Shore, was published in June of 2022. Hi, Corey. Thanks for being here today.
Hi, Denise. Thank you for having me.
Wow, you wrote a lot of books. So I have to tell the audience, back when I had my Empowering Women show, and I looked this up, you were actually a guest on my second episode of Empowering Women way back when I didn't know what I was doing. Still don't know what I'm doing the shows, but a little bit better than I was then, back in 2017. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
That was a long time ago. So much has happened then since 2017. I mean, for both of us.
Oh, yeah.
So I mentioned that you're CEO of Aurora Borealis Publishing, and that is actually a publishing house. Is that how you refer to it?
Yeah, we're a hybrid publisher. So it's like the best of a traditional publishing house and the best of self-publishing all rolled into one.
Okay. So what exactly does that mean for someone that's not really sure of that? So what do you mean all rolled into one? So I know last time we talked, you were editing people's books and you were working on that. Is that all included in this, or how does that work?
Yeah, we do include editing. So everything from editing to the cover to everything else you need for publishing is all included in all our packages. Some people come to me with a manuscript that's done, which is awesome. And then we can work with it from there.
Right.
The best thing about self-publishing is that you can work on your own timeline. So that's something that we bring to hybrid publishing. So you can approach us and say, hey, we want to put out a book and we don't want to wait 5 years to do it. So, you don't have to keep applying to different agents or pitching to different publishing houses. You can come to us, and if we feel like this is a really good story for us to do, then we will absolutely help you publish it. Like I said, we have people come in with a manuscript that's done. We have people come to us with just an idea, and I will coach them through writing the manuscript. And then we have some people who have an idea but no time. So we do have ghostwriters on our staff.
Oh, so it is the whole gamut of everything.
Oh, yeah.
And you talked about just a little bit when you were explaining that. What is the difference between self-publishing and going through a traditional publisher?
With self-publishing, usually you have to find all the experts on your own. So you would hunt for an editor, hunt for a cover designer, hunt for someone to do layout, all that stuff. You might reach out to other authors who you know and see who they've worked with. But essentially you're on your own. You're handling the launch on your own. You're handling publishing on your own. And sometimes that's difficult for somebody, especially when they're a business owner and they're really busy doing their thing, empowering other people, running their business. So self-publishing can be kind of challenging, especially since you don't always have distribution, which is getting your book out in front of other people. So that's self-publishing. Traditional publishing, you have to pitch usually to an agent, and then the agent pitches to a publishing house. Or if you're working with a smaller publisher, you can pitch directly to the smaller publisher, and then they will decide if that's something that they want to work on. It's typically no cost to work with a traditional publisher, but the royalties are much smaller, and they don't often do a lot of marketing for you. So those are, there are pros and cons to everything. I'm not going to tell somebody who has a dream of traditional publishing, don't go that way. Absolutely do what works for you. But for a hybrid, we bring both of that together. So you can pitch to us. More than likely, if it's something that feels aligned, we will take on the project. Our packages do have a fee for them, but you get higher royalties than you would get with traditional publishing. And we also do some marketing for your book. So that's one of the bonuses. And then also we have distribution. So you would be not only on Amazon, which is typically if you self-publish, you're on Amazon, but you would also be on barnesandnoble.com. And then you have a chance to possibly be in libraries, to be in other bookstores. And I always guide my authors through all the stuff and give them hints and tips and everything, because I want them to succeed. I want them to sell books, whether it's through us or whether it's, they order 50 copies and take it to a conference and sell books. I want them to sell their books.
Because there's a lot to it. Like I couldn't, it's not just writing a book and you're done. There's a lot to it. Even like laying the book out, and there's a lot. So it really makes sense to go to someone that has been through it with all these books and can coach people to do that. Now, I know I mentioned that you've written a lot of fiction books. And what was the first book that you wrote?
It was a middle grade fantasy book called Martina Mackenzie and the Diana's Eye. And it was good, but it was not up to my standards that I would be putting out right now.
When was that, Corey?
Did you say why is that?
When?
I wrote the book in 2004.
Okay.
So it's been a while. And it was the first in a series of 4, but I learned a lot from that book. So when I first started writing it, I kind of sat down and said, I've got all these ideas. I have these characters in my head. I want to write a book. I've read thousands of books. Surely I can write one. So I sat down on like a Friday night, started banging away at the keyboard. I wrote like 3 chapters, and I don't think I kept hardly any of what I typed that night because I didn't have any direction. I was just writing, and I just had all this stuff in my head. And honestly, the first 3 chapters were boring. They didn't go anywhere. I didn't know what I wanted to do with the book. I knew it was middle grade fantasy. So I kind of knew who I wanted to be speaking to, but I didn't have a plot. And so from that book, I learned you really need to have a solid outline for your book before you start working on it.
Well, that was almost 20 years ago. So do you think you'd ever revise those books? Second edition, bring it out, something new?
So I revised that book many, many, many times. And as I wrote the other books, I would go back and revise the entire series. I actually pitched those to agents. I had an agent for a while, but she wasn't able to sell it to a publishing house. So, for various reasons, they'll decide this isn't right for us, or I'm not in the mood for it today. It depends on who you get. So I ended up in 2012 self-publishing all those books, which again was a very big learning experience. So I did the 4 in that series, and my book Confessions of the Editor Brigand, which is an adult novel, not adult, but like it's for grown-ups. So I self-published those 5 novels while I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, because that's how you do nesting when you're an author. But yeah, I learned so much by self-publishing those books because I was just very excited to get them out there and let people read them. And I launched to crickets because I didn't have any idea how to market them either. And so I learned all the different issues along the way that authors run into. So that's why I do what I do today.
Well, it's with anything, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You think, I'm like, oh, I know that. Like when I started my business, I have a business degree. Oh, how hard could it be to start a business? Wow. Little wrong on that one. So you don't know what you don't know. So Corey, so you started writing fiction in the beginning. That's how you first started. How did that take you to helping writers with nonfiction? Because that's going to be two completely different processes, I would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, it is completely different processes, but a lot of the stuff that I learned writing fiction, you can bring into nonfiction when you're writing your own story. So
Okay.
I learned a lot about storytelling, basically, and that's what I help my clients with. What actually got me started working on nonfiction was when I worked for the Department of Energy, and
Hmm.
I was helping a lot of like our scientists. They wanted to do profiles on them. So, make them into real people is what they told us. So you don't picture, when you think about scientists, you're going to picture,
Yeah.
some old guy in a lab coat, staring into a microscope, and that's not the case at all. Even the old guys in the lab coats, they have cool stories too. So
Right.
that was what we got to do, was share the stories of these people,
Yes.
what they were passionate about outside of the lab. We shared about one woman's an amateur snowboarder, and we had some other people who did a lot of nonprofit work in their spare time, just things that really lift them up. And it was really cool to tell those stories. So as I learned how to tell their stories and kind of wove in my fiction knowledge, I took all of that and brought that to my book coaching. So when
Sure.
I'm working with my authors, I can sit down and say, hey, this part needs to be a little bit tighter. We don't want as much of the dark times. Let's really stretch out this piece where you're talking about your transformational journey.
Right.
Here's your big aha moment. I really want to dig in here. So all the stuff that I've learned telling fiction stories, it can easily transfer over to what they're doing.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And so we need a coach because we don't see things when we're looking at that closely. We need someone objective to look at and say, that doesn't really make sense. Are you saying the right thing? So that is really important.
Yeah.
I mentioned that you have participated in two anthologies.
Mhm.
What is, for people that may not understand what that is, or familiar with that term, what is an anthology?
They go by a bunch of different names. Some people call them group books, co-author books, other things like that. Basically, it's a bunch of authors who get together and they do a book together. There's usually one person who kind of heads up the project.
Okay.
They're the curator or the story collector, or again, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
And that person is in charge of collecting all the stories. One of the things that I've helped some of these people do is to kind of guide the people who are working on their stories, because a lot of times if you're heading up an anthology, you don't know how to coach your authors, or
Right.
you may have a lot of authors who you're friends with, and it's very hard to say no to them or to keep them on a deadline, or
Right.
other things like that. It's very easy for you to try to you know negotiate and collaborate instead of standing as the leader of that anthology. So I've helped several people now do their anthologies and be the leader of the anthology instead of, just one of the collaborators. And
Right.
it's a totally different dynamic too. We actually just got through one that launched a few days ago, 20
Yes.
Lives Ignited. And it's about 20 women over 60 who are sharing their stories of how they overcame their challenges. And it was such an amazing project. But, when you have 20 authors, it's very, very hard to say, all right, everybody, now we have to do this, now we have to do that.
Right.
So that was something I got to do, was step in and kind of be like the wingman for the for the curator for that book.
Regs, we're all busy. So
Yeah.
it's hard to find, we want to, but the time commitment, the bandwidth sometimes, so that has to be difficult.
Yeah, yeah. And even when you're doing a book like that and you think, oh, this is going to be simple, everybody's just writing 2,000 words, you have a lot of the project management stuff that you have to do as the
Right.
lead. Yeah.
Right. That seems like an awfully big job. I keep saying that. That seems like a big job.
I think it's fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So if someone wanted to write a book, but they weren't sure, I may have this idea. Who would read it? What would they do? Like, what would you recommend? Like the first couple steps that they should do if they had an
Yeah.
idea, besides
Yeah.
contact you, because they should definitely contact you. But what?
Yes, contact me. But before you do that, some things you really ought to do is look at your audience and your purpose. And if you've ever watched anything I say this all the time. Who do you want to reach? And it's not just a demographic. It's what group of people are overcoming the challenge that you want to address. And then look at that challenge and kind of stretch it out and say, what are some questions I can ask about this challenge? How are these people dealing with the challenge? And mostly, how are they feeling about it? Because the emotions are going to be huge for connecting with that audience. So start kind of writing about the type of person that's going through the challenge. Where are they in life? What are they going through? Do they have supporters? Do they not have supporters? Because, with any challenge, you can have all kinds of dynamics, and people, you'll have all kinds of looks for a person.
Right.
It's not just a specific age group, unless it's like new moms who are in their 20s. If that's
Right.
then yeah, that's going to be a little different. But typically you're going to address something like somebody who's starting a new business, or somebody who's transitioning their business, maybe somebody who just went through a diagnosis, or somebody who's an empty nester, their kids are leaving the home. So what does that look like in their lives? It's not always the same age group. It's not always the same skin color. It's all different things. So absolutely look at that stuff up front and how you can connect to them on an emotional level, and think about what stories you've personally experienced, or with your clients. You can use your client stories too, and see what you can do that is going to really connect with them.
Okay. Is that something that authors struggle with, or new authors struggle with, or people that want to be an author struggle with?
It is often something that they struggle with. I think we get very used to just talking about things, and as we're talking, things just come out of our mouths. We're so used to talking about this topic, but when you sit down to write, if you're not used to sitting down and typing up your thoughts, then yeah, it can be a little bit of a challenge. I'm a person who has always been used to just sitting down and going brain to fingers, just typing out everything that happens in my head. But if somebody's more used to talking, if they're a speaker, or if they do a lot of video and coaching, like this, then that's what they're used to. So sometimes we kind of judge ourselves, and that'll stop the flow. And it ends up being, a huge challenge for some new authors. And that judgment thing, it's not like, oh, I'm a horrible person or anything. It's usually like, is this what I want to say? Is this what they need to hear? Who's going to read this? Those kind of thoughts going through our heads. And we kind of have to say, shut up, get the judgment out, and just type and just let it flow. Or, if you handwrite your stuff, just let it all out, because it's a draft. You're not going to be posting this, you're not going to be putting it in your book. It's going to go through an editor. Everybody needs to hire an editor.
Yeah, definitely.
It has to go through an editor. Make sure that this is what you want to say. Make sure your editor understands what message you want to get across. That kind of helps stop that judgment and lets you just kind of let it flow, get it all out. I always like to say, write drunk, edit sober. So if you need to think that way, absolutely write just like whatever. I don't care if it comes out of my mouth. I can use curse words. I can say stupid things. No one's going to judge me, because I can go back and reread this.
Right. Good point. And I know you think and you type. I'm the opposite. I think and I write. I write all my stuff down before I type.
Yeah.
But I'm probably the minority anymore. But I don't know. For some reason, I get more creative when I'm sitting there actually like pen on paper and writing. I just can't. If I sit at the computer, I'm just looking at the screen thinking I just don't have the words.
Yeah. A lot of people are much better doing handwritten stuff. But whenever I'm writing, I like, especially if I'm writing fiction, like when I did Braving the Shore, I'm kind of seeing it as a movie in my head. So it's much easier for me to type it as it's going.
Do you think most people do that they type as they're doing it, or some people like record it and do it that way, or write, or what have you come across?
I've pretty much everything. There are plenty of apps that if you are speaking it, it'll transcribe it. You can also speak it into a recording and have somebody transcribe it for you. So yeah, as long as you're getting it out, it doesn't really matter how you do it.
So I have to try to read my writing whenever I'm scribbling cursive really quick. So that's always difficult too.
Yeah, that's another reason I type.
Or you think, what the heck was I writing? But I don't know. I just like, no, I don't like that. Scratching out and writing something else there. But we talked about Braving the Shore a few times, and that is your newest book, Braving the Shore. And I have a copy right here because you gifted me a copy. It's a great book. There we go. So it is a fiction book. So what was your inspiration for Braving the Shore?
Something kind of unusual. So I was on vacation last summer, and every morning I would get up and go for a walk and just, kind of daydream, think about, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to be reading, a lot about what I'm going to be reading that day.
Right, right, right,
Um,
right.
yeah, so I was just kind of going on that, and this show that we had watched before we went on vacation kept popping into my head, and there was a car accident in the show, and somebody took advantage of this
Mm,
car accident, and they ended up doing some illegal things
right.
to try to make out from this car accident. And of course they got caught at the end of the show and got hauled off to jail. But I kept thinking, like, it was just so interesting to me, how could we make this happen, have somebody take advantage of the situation and have it not be a terrible thing to do, like it was a total accident, how these things happen. And I can't give too much more away or I'll give
No,
away.
no, 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 no.
um, but there was a car accident. So at the beginning of the book, there's a car accident and
Right.
something
That
happens.
I couldn't believe that. I was like, what? A few
Yeah,
pages in.
yeah. But what comes out of that was a total accident. It was, and it ended up playing out for the best for the sisters who are in the book. So yeah, so that was really where the inspiration came from. Because once I had that idea going in my head and thinking, like, how could I have these wonderful characters that everybody's going to love and have this happen to them and have it all work out? So once I had that plot going in my head, I was like, yeah, now I'm gonna have to write a book. So I totally did not intend to write a book last summer, but it ended up that the story came to me. And as I was writing, it just kept flowing. So yeah, so that's where it came from.
It's a great book, beautiful cover. And
Thank
where
you.
can people get Braving the Shore?
You can get it anywhere that books are sold, especially if you're online. You can go to Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. It's available in paperback and ebook on
Okay,
both of
great.
the platforms. Yeah.
Because some people actually holding the book, reading like the actual book, and some people like it electronically.
Yes.
So you're so busy, Corey, with all these things going on, running the publishing house, which is fairly new,
Yeah.
fairly new, writing a book. What's next for Corey Walmsley?
Oh, geez. Well, I did start writing another one. I have an outline. I'm not happy with the outline, so I keep going back in and poking at it. But yeah, I think there will be another book eventually. And I'm actually doing an anthology this fall, by my publishing house, and it's the working title is Your Soul Level Magic. So it's going to feature 10 to 12 authors, and I'm actually taking applications for that right now. So if you're interested in this, please let me know. But yeah, 10 to 12 authors, and they'll be telling a story about like a one pivotal moment in their lives, like that aha moment, that thing that changed everything, and how you navigated that. Because I want to showcase these kind of stories. And a lot of times that story is really what gets you to your soul level magic. Sometimes it's something that you've kind of been hiding inside. Maybe you're afraid to let it out. I know for me, I was always very good with science. So I kept getting pushed towards science. So I actually have a biology degree, but I loved reading. So I actually have 2 English degrees, but I kept getting nudged towards science. Oh, you're good at science. You should go be a doctor. You should go work in a lab. You should go do this stuff. But I kept thinking, okay, because I'm good at this, I can't be good at writing. I can't be good at storytelling. I can't be good at all these things that really are essential to me. And it took a long time for me to basically get hit over the head and told, look, you need to go be a writer. This is your thing. And open your publishing house, publish books, write your own books. But those were kind of things that I kept inside. And I know a lot of us, especially entrepreneurs, have that same thing going on, where we've kept something small and hidden, and then all of a sudden we realize, hey, this is it. This is my thing. And it just bursts out of us. And all of a sudden we're a totally different person and living in our power, living in our truth. So those are the stories I want to tell. And the anthology is coming up this fall. I'm actually going to coach people through the writing portion starting in September. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's
That's
gonna be
fun.
fun.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Any final thoughts?
Oh, geez. So if somebody is thinking about writing a book, thinking about joining an anthology, any of that kind of stuff, it's important to get your story out there. Your story impacts others. It helps you if you need healing, it helps you heal to tell your story. And it's going to help other people grow and give them permission to tell their stories too. It'll give everyone permission to be who they truly are and to just shine. And we need more people doing that in this world. So
Right.
that's my big message.
You're definitely doing your part.
Thank you.
Well, I wish you and Aurora Coriolis much luck, and I'm sure this won't be the last that we hear from you. You have amazing things going on.
Thank you. Yes.
And thanks for being on the show again.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate being on here.
Thank you for watching today's episode of Empowering You. I'd like to thank my guest, Corey Walmsley, CEO of Aurora Coriolis Publishing. Corey gave some great tips for you if you have an idea for writing a book. She also talked about publishing and how there's more to publishing than just writing the book. I want to thank Corey for sharing all of her knowledge and all her years of experience. Thank you for watching today's episode, and see you next time.